Hello everybody and welcome to this Easy 11 Plus live lesson on coordinates and line graphs. I'm sure you've already downloaded and printed off the worksheet that's linked in the video description. Please remember to like and subscribe, and let's get started. So this is the first question from the worksheet. I'll zoom in a little bit on the question so we can see that. So this is from a past paper from Merchant Taylor's School. It says the centre of a square is at the point 1, 2. And one of the vertices or corners of the square is at the point 4, 7. And the first thing we need to do is plot the centre of the square and one of the vertices, but obviously the sensible thing is to plot the vertex, that's the singular of vertices, that they have given to us. So let's zoom back out again so we can see the whole thing. That will do. Great. In fact, I'll just go so we can see the coordinates in the question as well. Okay, perfect. So the centre of a square is at the point 1, 2. So what does that mean? You probably have some idea, but of course this is also a revision video for people who've covered this before but forgotten. So when you're dealing with a pair of coordinates, like, let's make this a little bit bigger, 1, 2, like this, Cartesian coordinates like this are given in the form x, y. And we can see that the x-axis is over here, so it's this row of numbers, and the y-axis is over here, and it's this row of numbers here. So what does this mean if we have these two coordinates in the form x, y? Well, it means we have to first take the x value, which is 1. So we go along the corridor to 1, and then we go up the ladder to 2 here. So it's 1 on the x-axis and 2 on the y-axis, leading us to this point here. Now, of course, in an exam, you probably wouldn't draw all this nonsense on. You just find the point you count 1 across, 2 up, and you'd put your cross, oops, I'll make that a bit more accurate. You'd put your cross just here for the center of the square. A lot of people say along the corridor and up the stairs. I say up the ladder just because it's straight up and it isn't up the stairs like that. So we've got the point 1, 2 here, which is the center. And we also have to plot the corner, which is at the point 4, 7. If you can see that, I know it's a little bit small on the screen. So the same thing. We count 4 across, and then we go 7 up. We can see that 6 is here, so 7 is going to be here. So it's as easy as that for this question. We just need to find the point 1, 2, which is the center here, and the point 4, 7, which is a corner of the square, which is up here. Okay, so it's as easy as that. When you've got two numbers in brackets to show a pair of coordinates, the first one is the distance across the x-axis, and the second one is the distance up the y-axis. Okay, now let's look on for the next thing. Plot the other 3 vertices of the square on the grid above and write down the coordinates of the 3 points you have just plotted. Okay, great, and thank you everybody for the helpful comments. The mantra along the corridor up the stairs, so up the ladder. Good, now someone is ahead of the game here, and Ripendra has put, you see how many squares the point moves from the middle of the shape. Yup, you're ahead of the game, let's do that now. So we've got the center here, and I'll put a little circle around it just to remind ourselves that that's the center, not a corner of the square. And we've got one corner up here at the top right. Now, 2 corners of a square to the opposite corner of this square. So this point here is 3 across from the center, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. So we need to go 3 across in the other direction, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. And that's going to give us that point there. Now in an exam you probably won't be drawing quite so many lines because they're liable to create confusion about which points exactly you're plotting, but what you could do, you could use a pencil to do what I'm doing here with my erasable electro marker. You could use a pencil, then rub out the lines that you've sketched, or once you're good at it you can just count and perhaps you don't need to draw the lines on. Right, so we've got 2 opposite corners of the square. So we can see the square is going to be something like this, but that isn't accurate enough. So how do we find these other points? Well, let's imagine a line from this vertex here to the center. Now, the 2 other vertices are going to be on lines that are at right angles to this line. See what I mean if I do a quick sketch? Something like that is going to take us in the right direction. So what have we done to get from this vertex to the center? We go 3 across and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. So now we're going to go, because we've turned it by 90 degrees, the across becomes an up and the up becomes an across. We're going to go 3 up to here and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across to here. We can get rid of all this business of lines. And now, as before, the vertex opposite this one on the other side of the square should be quite easy to find. To get to the center from here, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across and 3 down. So now we're going to go 3 down and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across. And that gets us to here. We can get rid of all this distracting nonsense. And we've got the vertices of our square. Okay, I hope that's clear. Someone's saying, I'm sorry I came late. Hello, I'm late. Bear in mind that you can always, even while it's live, you can rewind this video to go back to the start, and then you just watch it a few minutes behind, and that should work absolutely fine, at least on YouTube. Okay, right. And now we have to write down the coordinates of the 3 points we've just plotted. So let's look at this one first of all. Picked at random. It doesn't matter what order you do these in. So what have we done here? So remember, we start from the origin, that's the 0, 0 point here, and we count across first of all. How far across do we go? We can see that it's 6 places across, the number 6 is there. Okay, so 6 across, so x value is 6, and then we have to go 1 down to get to our point here. So how do we say 1 down? Well, you've got a clue here with these numbers. Look how they're written. Up here you've got 2, 4, 6. Down here you've got -2, -4, -6. Please write a minus number. So this is 6 minus 1. It's as simple as that. And you can find any point in this grid using this method. Let's pick a point at random. I'll look over here and just do something. Where have I ended up? Okay, so here I'm at just more than 3 across. So I'm at something like 3.1 across. And I am not quite 6 down, so I'm going to be something like -5.8. Now I'm making that up a bit, but I'm just proving the point. You can pick any point in a grid, and of course the grid actually goes on forever in every direction if you want it to, and you can label that point with coordinates. By the way, if you wanted to describe anything in 3D space, for example this room that I'm in, you just need to add one more axis in, one that goes in and out. So you can have x, y, and z. And then with the 3 coordinate points, you can describe anything in 3D space. What does 3D mean? It means 3 dimensions, or 3-dimensional. Here we've got 2 dimensions, the x dimension and the y dimension. If you add a z dimension in, you can describe the location of anything, anywhere, relative to a stable origin point. Anyway, that's by the by. You're not going to be tested on that at 11+. It's just general interest. Okay, so next point here. We've dealt with that one. Right, this one here. Speed up a bit. We've gone 2 to the left. So on the x-axis we are -2. And we have gone 3 down, so we're -3. So this is all minuses. This is -2, -3. And in fact, any point in this, in this area here, this quadrant of the graph, that means 1/4 area essentially, is going to be minus and minus. And here we got -2, -3. And last of all, we need to go up here. We're not bothering with this one here because that was given in the question. So repeating that would not earn you any brownie points. This one up here, we are -4 across and we're 5 up. So we are -4, 5. Because this quadrant of the graph here has values which are negative on the x-axis but are in the top part, so are positive on the y-axis. You don't need to know that, you just need to follow the numbers on the axes, but it's always good to think about the background to these things. Okay, now ordinarily with coordinate pairs you put brackets around them like this, but if you look at the answer space here you can see they've actually provided the brackets even though they are a bit tiny, so we don't need to add in new ones of our own. I haven't forgotten the brackets, they're just very, very small. And Lee says, are you Richard or Robert? Well, I'm Robert, but you wouldn't believe the number of people who email me addressing things to Richard. So to quite a lot of people, I do seem to be Richard. Nripendra is writing, I'm kind of confused. If you've got a specific question, do put it in the comments and I will try to help you with it. Alfred says, sorry, Robert, my internet is not the best. Tell me about internet is terrible, which is why the quality of these live streams is sometimes a little bit granular, shall we say. But anyway, right, onwards, onto the next. I'm going to get rid of the other scribbles on here. You just want the answers. This stuff up to the side here that I've written, that's fine. That's not in the answer space. It doesn't make any difference to the marks. On to the next. Okay, this is from Elaine School, not a very popular school, lots of people apply to. So again, we got a grid. It's a very similar kind of question. The reason I've got two questions that are very similar to each other is because this is a super common question type. So I thought it'd be worth having another go to revise the same skills. Mark the point B with coordinates 0, 4. Okay, so what does 0 mean? It means we go no distance across from the origin. The origin is 0 here. By the way, the point where the lines meet on a graph won't always be 0, 0. It doesn't have to be, but in a graph in an 11 plus exam, it normally will be. However, make sure to check. Here you can see that this is 0 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. Mark the point B with coordinates 0, 4. So we're 0, so we're not moving anywhere sideways. And we're 4, which means we're 4 up on the y-axis. So dead simple, we are up here. Is that fitting on the screen? Yes, it is. Okay, great. Now it says mark the point B. What does this mean? It means that you have to label this B. If you don't label it B, you risk losing at least half a mark, possibly a mark. Okay? So if you're asked to label a named point, make sure that you name it. Okay? Simple as that. Mark the point C with coordinates -3, 0. Okay, so -3, we're over here. 0, so now the 0 is in the up the ladder or up the stairs part. So we're not going up or down, so it's -3 and stay there. The 0 essentially in this case means just stay there. So that's our point C. Again, we have to label it, okay? Absolutely essential. The point D forms a square ABCD. Okay, write down the coordinates of point D. So we've got point A over here, point B here, point C here, and we need a point D to make a square. Surprise, surprise, it won't always be a square, but at 11 plus it actually quite often is. It's a super common question type. So what can we do with this? Well, let's think about what we're doing to get from point to point on this square. We don't know where the center is, so we're going to do this a bit differently. How do we get from A to B? So to get from A to B, we went up 3 and across 4. Okay? How do we get from B to C? We went across 3 and down 4. So let me guess what we do to get to point D. Oh yes, we go down 3 and across 4. And if you want to check that, you can get to A by going across 3 and up 4. Now, someone smart in the comments might point out that I have not drawn the square because the points we have should be the corners of the square. The square now drawn on your screen is just the joys of a magic rubber. Great, okay, and we need to label that D, of course. But the question did not ask us to plot it on the graph, although of course that's a useful thing to do. We need to write down the coordinates. An absolutely essential tip for the 11 plus is that you should always check back at the question when you think you found the answer to make sure that you have actually found the answer that's required. What are the coordinates of D? Well, we've gone 1 across to here and then down 3, so it's 1 minus 3. 1, comma, minus 3, brackets around it. Okay? As easy as that. Let's hope I haven't made a terrible mistake. I don't have my answers next to me. I'm just trusting in myself to get these questions right. Okay. Dan Tuber Extreme has written, do you get the homework from emails? Thank you, I really want to try it. Okay, brief excursion to talk about the worksheets for these lessons. So first of all, if you're watching a lesson that I've already put up, then you just need to go into the video description, which if you're watching on a computer is just underneath the video. If you're watching on a phone, you need to click the little down arrow under the video and then the description will appear. And in that description, there's a link that you can click to access the worksheet for the lesson. There are also loads of other links. There's a link to some free resources that you can download with lots of papers to different 11 plus subjects. There are links to my books, to my online services, all that kind of thing. But crucially for what you're saying, there's a link to the worksheet for the lesson. Other people are on my mailing list, and they therefore get the worksheet sent out a few days in advance. Normally I send it out on the Friday before the Tuesday lesson, so people can do the worksheet over the weekend. If you want to join my mailing list so you get the worksheets, then the easiest way to do it is go into the video description and you'll see there's a link to access free resources. Click on that link, you'll go to a page where you can sign up for them, and that will add you automatically to my mailing list, and then you'll get the worksheets. That's probably the easiest way to do it. I also post the worksheet in various Facebook groups, normally on the Saturday before each Tuesday's lessons. So if you want the worksheets in advance, that is where you find them. If you haven't found the worksheet in advance, you can always pause the video, find the worksheet in the video description, print it off, have a go, and then watch the rest of the video. Okay, little detour there. Let's get back into it. What is the area of the square ABCD? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to form the complete square, and I'm just going to sketch it freehand, like this. Look at my amazing artistic skills. I'm sure you're all deeply envious. Okay, there's our beautiful square. Right, now we need to find the area of this square. So one approach you could take is you could start counting squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, and then you need to start matching up part squares around the edge until you get to complete squares. It's a bit tricky, but it is doable, especially if you've joined up the edges with a ruler, so you've got a pretty decent idea. But we're here to do math, so let's try and be a little bit more mathematical and also guarantee ourselves an accurate answer. So one thing we know how to find the area of is a triangle, a right angled triangle. Okay, there's one. Here's another one. Here's another one. What am I doing here? I don't want to mess it up too much. That's it. Here's another one here. And here's another one here. So we got 4 triangles like this and a square in the middle. Okay, so if we find the area of one of these triangles, it should be the same for all of them. And then we just add on this square in the middle here. So let's find the area of a triangle. Let's look at the top right one. So this one is 4 across and 3 high. Now there are 2 simple ways to find the area of this, I would say. Let's say that you can't remember the formula for the area of a triangle. In that case, there's a really simple way to get around it. Imagine a rectangle like this. Okay? So this rectangle is 4 wide and 3 high. 4 times 3 is 12, and the triangle is half of it. So the triangle must have an area of 6. Now the formula for the area of a triangle is based on this principle, and you simply do half times the base times the height. The base is 4, the height is 3, half of 4 is 2, and 2 times 3 is 6. The area of a triangle is half times the base times the height equals the area. Really important to remember, but should you forget that, you can also work around it with a rectangle, as long as it's a right angle triangle. By the way, while we're here, I may as well just take a quick detour on this because it's important general knowledge, I think. Let's imagine you had a triangle that wasn't a right angle triangle. Let's say you have a triangle that's something like, I don't know, like this. Honestly, that's a triangle. In this case, let's say the base is, I don't know, 4. This side is 6. You don't do half of 4 times 6 because this is not the height for this formula. What you need is the perpendicular height, which means the height that forms a right angle with the bottom. So let's say that was 5 in this case. You do half times 4 times 5, which will give you 10. So you need to take half times the base times the perpendicular or straight up height. Okay, right, back to the question. So what's the area? So we've got 6 6, 6, 6, and 1 in the middle. So we've got 12, 24, and 1 is 25. Okay, what are people screaming in the comments? Aha, actually, we've got some great comments. And Ripenda says, would you assume that 1 square is 1 centimetre? Subramaniam says the square area is 25 centimetres squared. Okay, so this is actually a bit of a tricky one. Is there anything in this question that refers to centimetres? No, there is nothing that refers to centimetres. Now, it could be that in the original paper there was, and I've sliced it off when putting this worksheet together. To be honest, I can't remember. But the fact is we have no idea what the scale of this grid is. We don't know whether each square is a centimetre, a millimetre, or a kilometre. And to say it's centimetres, it would just be a wild guess. You cannot write centimetre squared because we have no idea whether this is in centimetres. So the area, you just have to give it as 25. If you wanted, you could write 25 units squared. Better just to write 25 because we don't know what units we are talking about here. Well done to the people who spotted that issue and raised it. Okay, let's go on to the next one down here. There are some people writing general comments like I'm really nervous before my exams. As always, I'll be doing a question and answer session a little bit later on, so save your questions and you can write them then. Okay, this is slightly different, and there's just one part to this question from the King's School in Chester. Let's zoom in a little bit. So this is a kite. Write down the coordinates of vertex, and by now you know that kind of means corner, D. Okay, so that's down here. And we don't know the coordinates for that at all, but we know that this is a kite. Right, so what do we know about this kite? Well, the first thing we should know about a kite is that it has a line of symmetry along here. Probably not a wobbly line of symmetry like that. Second thing I would say about this image is that it looks as though the kite is exactly on its side, but let's check that. If this kite is on its side, then this point and this point will be the same amount up in the y direction here. Are they? Let's check. So this y coordinate here is 4 and this one is also 4. So that is indeed the case. This kite is perfectly on its side, and that's very useful for us indeed. It makes life much simpler than it would be otherwise. These 2 points here, if the kite is symmetrical, which it must be, so these points here must be exactly aligned vertically. Whoopsie daisies. So they must be at the same point along the x-axis. And we can see that this is at the point 5 on the x-axis, so this must be as well. Okay, what about the y-axis? How high up is this kite? How far? This one here is 4. In other words, if we do this little line here, it's 2 units high. And this kite is symmetrical, so this must be another 2 units high. And if point A is 4 on the y-axis, so it's 4 units above the ground, then this must be 2 units less. So this must be at point 5, 2. And it's a good idea to write that in the answer space so there can be no doubt, so that a fast-moving marker doesn't miss your answer up here. So we've written it in here, 5, 2. And that's the answer. As simple as that. Squizillions of people writing the correct answer. Well done. Okay, on to the next. And this is, I think, the last question I've got here. This is a relatively short lesson compared to some of my lives. You'll be relieved to hear, because everyone's back to school, and I'm sure you've got homework and lots of other things to be doing. Okay, but this one is a little bit trickier. And if you've tried this already, it might have got you thinking a bit. Okay. So the coordinates of A, B, and C are A is 3, 1, B is 6, 2, 12, 4. The value of D, which is not shown, also lies on this line. If D is 15A, what is the value of A? Now we can see that our last point here, C, is at 12 on the line. So the point where we are at 15 something is going to be further along the line off the edge of our graph here. And there's nothing wrong with doing a little bit of a sketch there just to make things clear. So it's going to be something around here. So we've got a point here. So that's 15 something. How can we find out what that something is? Well, let's, as always, when something looks really tricky and you think, help, maybe there's some special knowledge here that I should have studied at school and I don't know, and I'm stuck and it's a panic and I'm going to fail the exam and the sky is falling in, stop and take a breath and just look at the information that's already been given to you and see whether you can work something out from that. So rather than trying to get from point C to this mystery point up here, let's look at the points we already have. We can see that point A is 3 across. It's at 3 here, and point there to there is 3 units across. And the difference in height from point A to point B, so point A is 1 up and point B is 2 up. So it's gone up 1 unit on the graph. So if you go 3 across, you go up 1. Now point C here is 12 on the x-axis. And we're getting to point 15. And what's the difference between point 12 and point 15? Of course, it's 3 points. So if we draw the same triangle here, we've once again gone across 3 units. And we must therefore also go up 1 because it's a straight line. So if C was at 12, 4, our new pair of coordinates must be 15, 5, because we've gone up 3 along the x-axis and up 1 along the y-axis. So what's the value of A? It's 5. Always check back to the question. It isn't asking for the coordinate pair, it's asking for the value of A. So what they want is 5. Okay, great. Please can the people who are writing the same answer loads of times stop doing it because it annoys other people and it puts them off writing comments because the comments just get filled up. So please, if you've got an answer, if you've got a comment, just write it once. I apologise if I miss it, but it's much nicer for everybody else. Okay, another point not shown on me. So I think this question, I didn't write it, is trying to say E is another point and E is B8. Okay, there we are, worked it out. What's the value of B? So B is at 8 on the y-axis. The furthest point that we've found so far is 15, 5. Okay, so we've got 15, 5. So maths involved, just count up. 15, 5, so then we go 3 across, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 1 up, 18, 6. Next one, 3 across, 21, 1 up, 7. 3 across, 24, and 1 up, 8. So what's the value of B? It's 24. Now there are other ways of doing this, but I like that because it's just so simple. And it's something you can just do quickly in an exam without getting too lost in the theory of what's going on. You can just follow the steps and get there. Should I talk about other methods for getting this? Yeah, well, I mean, another way you could approach it, actually, which is equally simple and intuitive. I'm trying to pick what are the best ones to talk about. Yeah, you could say that we're getting from 5 to 8. Yeah, let's look at it this way. So we know that you can start with 15, 5. And then we want to get to something 8. So to get from 5 to 8, we've added 3 units. And we know that for every 1 unit you add in the y-axis, we add 3 units in the x-axis. So if we added 3 units in the y-axis, we must add 3 times 3. So 9 units in the x-axis. Oh, what did I say? Did I say I'm... If we've added 3 units in the y-axis, we need to add 3 times as many units in the x-axis, which is 9. 15 plus 9 is 24. That's what I'm trying to say. Goodness me. Right. On to the next. If PQ is another point on this same line, write down a relationship or equation between P and Q. No, it's not so bad. As always, have a look at what you already know before you start panicking. What can we see here? We're looking for the relationship between the x value and the y value, okay? Or P and Q as they're calling them here. Let's look at some of the ones we got so far. 15, 5. 18, 6. 21, 7. 24, 8. What can you see about these numbers? Of course, the second number is always a third of the first number. So if the first number is P and the second number is Q, you can write P equals 3 times Q, which in maths we'd simplify, we'd just write P equals 3Q. So the first number is 3 times as big as the second number. Or another way of saying the same thing, you could write, oh, the screen's getting a bit stuck here. Anyway, you could write Q equals P over 3, or Q equals 1/3 of P. Any of those things would be completely correct. If you're stuck with algebra and if you wrote P is 3 times Q, or Q is a third of P, you'd be likely to get most, if not all, of the credit. But they do suggest that you should give an equation. An equation means a statement with an equal sign, basically. And it will have some unknowns in it, some letters that indicate things that we don't know or that we can change, some variables. And that's the answer, so we just need to put it in here. I like P equals 3Q as the most straightforward of those options. You could get to this answer another way. Let's look back at the graph itself. We can see here that for every 3 you go across, you go up 1, or for every 1 time you go up, you go 3 across. In other words, the across value, which down here is P, increases 3 times as fast as the up value. And that's what we've expressed here with P is 3 times Q, or P is 3Q. But I think it's really simple just to look at the coordinate pairs you've already generated in your working and spot the pattern. It really is as straightforward as that. Okay, great. Someone's written, this is very making sense. Thanks, Robert. I'm delighted to hear that. I think this is perhaps one of the simpler topics that I've covered in these live lessons, but lots of people got in touch to ask for it, so I thought it was worth a bit of attention. Right, okay. As every week, it's time to go on to my... So a simple one this week, because I know it's something that's on lots of people's minds as they are either choosing schools to apply for, which might have exams next January, or perhaps they're starting to think about all the lovely offers they're going to get for the exams they're doing about now and how they're going to choose between schools. And I know that what a lot of people think at this stage is, I want to go to the school that my friends are going to. And the reason I'm talking about this is because it's a completely natural thing to think, but I also think it's a very big mistake that a lot of people make. You'd be amazed how many people go to secondary school following all their friends from primary school and then find that within a few years or even within a few months they have a completely different circle of friends anyway. It's very tempting to follow what you know and have the security of your existing friendship group, but you should be more open-minded than that. Be brave, take the jump, go to a school that you really like, even if your friends aren't going there, and you'll be amazed by how quickly you encounter new people and make new friends and discover completely new possibilities in your life. I know it's an easier thing to say than to do, but I really mean it. When I think back to the people I knew at primary school, I'm not really properly in touch with anybody from that stage. I do still occasionally talk to a couple of people. Really, the friends that I've made that have really stuck have been friends that I made later on. I think that's true for many people. It's likely to be the friends that you make at secondary school and beyond who really stick with you. So give yourself the chance to meet completely new people, and don't be afraid of leaving behind, even if it's a little sad, the school friendship group that you already have. Simple as that, to say at least. Right, okay, let's go on to answering your question. Right, there are a lot of people saying very general things along the lines of, do you have any tips for my exams because they're coming up soon? There are loads of things that I could say. I would really advise you to look back through the videos in this channel, look at the advice that I give for all sorts of different exam styles and question types, and the tips that I give are my tips of the week. And I think you'll find loads of things that will help you there. If I had to pull out some tips now, what would I say? I mean, last week I spoke about what to do on the morning of the exam. I've spoken as your timing, your timed practice, how to organize timing in an exam. I think the best thing is to look back at my videos and pull out the advice that you can find there. You might also like to look at my blog on the RSL Educational website. It's under the heading that's called Exam Advice and School Guides. I've got loads of tips there for your exams and for what to do in the last period of preparation. Let's have a look at some of the other questions here. I'm just scrolling up a bit through the comments. Can you give any advice for comprehension? Have a look at my comprehension videos. There is loads of advice there. Someone says, do we need to pay to get the worksheet if we want platinum or gold? You're confusing two things. So if you're on my general mailing list, you do not need to pay for. I send out blog articles and I send out links to my videos and I send out the worksheets in advance. That's completely free. You just go to the free resources link in the video description, click on that, sign up there to the mailing list, you'll get the free resources straight away, and then you'll also get my emails about these lessons. The platinum and bronze and silver subscriptions, they are to my online service called 11 Plus Lifeline. You pay for that. I send you 11 Plus resources with detailed answers every week. That's a separate thing. It isn't part of these videos. Nothing to do with these videos is paid for, at least not at the moment. Who knows what I'll do in the future, but I have no plans to make any part of this paid for. What should I do if, sorry, comments scrolling, what should I do if I've already done some schools papers? I think this question must mean what should I do if I've already done some exams? Be happy that you've got some of them out of the way. Fantastic. Try to learn the lessons from it. Think about what went well. Think about which things you need to work on a little bit more. Think about where you might improve your timing, your exam skills, and try to take those skills into any more exams you have. But the main thing with things that you've done is you've got to get used to letting go, to saying, I've done that. However well or badly I've done, it's done. I'm glad that it's done, and I'm going to wait and find out. And whatever happens, as I say in virtually every lesson here, if you've put all the work into preparing for your 11 plus, you've studied this hard, then you're already a person who is going to do well wherever you go to school, even if it isn't the dream school that you're aiming for. Gemma says, what score do you need to get into a grammar school? Thanks for the video. Well, thank you very much for watching. What score do you need? It completely depends on the grammar school, I'm afraid. Basically, if there are 150 places, and there are 300 people applying, then you need to be in the top half. That's kind of how it works. It's a little bit more complicated than that. But basically, that's what it boils down to. So the score you need depends on how well other people do. Just do your best. You can't do any more than that. What other 11 plus YouTube channels are there? Well, your YouTube search function will help you better than I can. There are lots of things out there. Which things you find most useful will depend on your learning style and what kind of teaching you like. One thing that's great with YouTube is there are quite a lot of YouTube videos by young people who've recently done the 11 plus and make their own videos, and I really recommend having a look at those. There's a channel called Lesson Aid, which I know is really active and people like that, and that's done by a guy who did his own 11 plus a year or two ago, so that might be worth a look. But there are loads of channels out there. I love for more comments saying make merch. I just can't believe these people who want to walk around with easy 11 plus t-shirts. I find it hard to believe that you would actually wear such a thing, but who knows, there are some peculiar people in the world. How much should we study a day? Study a comfortable amount that works for you, where you're still learning, where you're not feeling overloaded, where you're still productively developing your skills. Don't study more than that, but equally the exams are near. Don't study too much less than that either. It really depends on you. There isn't an answer in hours that I can give. Please, can people posting the same comment again and again? I'm looking at you, Anne Lee. Not do it because the comments are flying past and I can't see people's questions. Can you do a video on comparing texts? As it is hard. This is a new requirement of the Sutton 11 plus exam. A lot of people are asking about it. I'm going to need to see some more sample questions for that style of exam before I can usefully produce a video on it, I think. So I think it might be something that will have to wait until after this round of exams, I'm afraid. Could you make lots of videos before the 11 plus? What am I doing every week? I do a live video every week. I normally publish a short video every week. How much time can I spend on videos? Bear in mind that if you want lots more videos, look at my channel. There are loads of videos there already. It'll take you quite some time to do the worksheets and go through all of those videos. Some people asking questions I've already answered. Can you do a VR video? Look at my channel. I've got loads of VR videos. Surely you've looked there already. Someone posting a question I've already answered. What should I do if I've already done some school's papers? I've answered that question. What is the marking scheme? It completely depends on the exam. Just do your best. If you're wondering about marking schemes, there is this that I would say. You can't know the marking scheme for the exam. But what you can do is look at the question and work out what the examiner is looking for. You can work out a lot of the mark scheme from the question. So in a maths exam, it's simply a matter of making sure that you've done everything the question asks for. If you're doing an English exam, look really precisely at the kind of wording in the question, and that will give you clues about what sort of response, what structure of response is required. I talk about that loads in my comprehension and indeed my writing videos. So have a look at those for more on that. What else? Well, my exam is super soon on the day before. Should I skip school to do extra work? My school is okay with that. Well, if your school's okay with it, it's not really skipping, is it? I don't know. What's most useful? Talk to your parents, talk to your teachers, work out what's likely to be most valuable for you. It could be a good idea. I'm not really in a position to say. How do I improve my synonyms and antonyms? By looking at my verbal reasoning videos in this channel, where you'll find loads of advice on that. Someone says, no, you've only got 2 VR videos. Scandal. I mean, that is quite a lot. Also, there were the free resources linked below. There's a whole VR and MVR paper with full answers and explanations there. That might help you. Look at other YouTube channels with more VR videos. Rashid says, I love your videos. Thank you. I love the fact that you love my videos, and thank you for the kind comment. Can I have tips for hard papers? Yes, look at my videos. There are loads of tips for hard papers. Gannigan says, I've watched most of them. I'm very impressed. There are a lot of them there. Singing along. So many comments here. Do you prefer a morning exam or an afternoon exam? I prefer a morning exam because I'm it's very difficult for me. I'm a morning person and a night person, so I work best in the morning and once it's gone dark outside, and I don't work very well in the afternoons, so I would always take a morning exam over an afternoon exam personally. But we don't get to choose. We do the exams that we have to do. Your vids are the best. Thank you. Your comments are the best, Nirav. What is the best 11 plus book? My 11 plus books, of course. Is Reading Boys very hard? Is Reading Boys very hard? Okay. I'm not sure really. I'm not certain of the answer to that. I think it's a reasonably standard level of exam. That's my impression, somewhere in the middle. But the thing about exams, it's not the difficulty of the exam itself that matters. It's how much competition you have and how good the competition is. Because if you have a really easy exam that lots of really bright people sit, then you have to do fantastically well in it. And actually getting almost perfect marks in an easy exam is often harder than getting a decent mark in a hard exam. You can only do the best that you can do. Don't worry about how hard or competitive your exams are. Do the study, prepare yourself well, take a deep calm breath, and go to the exam and show off your skills. And you can't be expected to do any more than that. Right, I'm going to wrap up soon. How do you make your thumbnails? Might not be the most relevant question. I make them in Photoshop, is what I do. I'm not going to give a detailed walkthrough right now, but I make them in Adobe Photoshop. Are you going to teach vectors? Possibly at some stage. Does much in the way of vectors turn up at 11 plus? I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to look into that. I'm not convinced it's an 11 plus topic. What have we got here? Is 4-dimensional a thing? You can have as many dimensions as you like. you know, in terms of pure maths, there's no limit to the number of dimensions you can work with. If you mean in real life, what would a fourth dimension mean? It could mean different things depending on what you're trying to express. Dimensions are ways of expressing ideas that we want to communicate. So if you've got 2 dimensions being a flat page, like the graph back there, if you had 3 dimensions being a flat area extended through space, so 3 dimensions, so the space we move in, you could, for example, have a fourth dimension to explain how things change over time. That might be one way of using a fourth dimension. There are lots of things you could express with a fourth dimension, and even a 5th, 6th, 7th or onwards dimension. There's no limit really. And certainly when you're talking about theory, about pure maths, you can really do what you like if you're really keen. Pixtor says, "What are you doing in the thumbnail for this lesson?" Oh, I'm dangling from the line on the line graph. I'm sorry if that wasn't quite clear enough. Maybe I should have made my hand more closed. People are still asking questions I've already answered. Vamshi is really angry. Block capitals on the internet. That means anger. 2 VR vids and 15 maths vids. Vamshi obviously really likes VR. I can only suggest that you go to one of the other channels with loads of VR. I don't do so much VR because it's relatively repetitive, and I find that my viewers are generally more interested in English and maths topics. But I do some reasoning, and there is a bit of VR on the channel. I think you'll find that in those 2 VR vids, I do cover pretty much all the skills that you need for working through VR questions. There really aren't so many aspects to it. God, part of it, to be honest, is I hate reasoning exams. They're so boring. Anyway, right, almost there. Robert, I have 4 videos of you on, and it's annoying. I can't think what to do. I mean, there might be a solution like closing 3 of them, but no, surely not. Do you have a video on interior angles? I will do a video on angles at some point soon, because it is a topic I need to cover. Whoa. All right, Akshaya, I know that 4 videos of me are annoying. Close some of them. That's all that I can suggest. Right, I think I'm going to call it a day there. So it's been an absolute pleasure to have you for this lesson. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for all your questions. I hope the worksheet was useful. Don't forget to take a moment to look through the links in the video description and to download the free resources that are linked there. The link is pretty clear. And I hope to see you for next week's live lesson, next Tuesday at 6 o'clock in this place. Don't forget to like and subscribe.